The Galactic Academy's Xenobiology lecture hall fell silent as Professor Zixthor droned on about comparative evolutionary advantages. In the third row, Jessica Martinez sat quietly taking notes on her datapad, her dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She'd grown accustomed to the stairs, being one of only 12 humans enrolled in the entire station made her something of a curiosity. The other species gave her wide berth. Earth was classified as a Class 12 Deathworld, a designation reserved for only the most hostile environments in known space. The fact that humans had not only survived but thrived there made them objects of equal parts fascination and fear. Sitting 2 seats behind her was Krothnos, a Valkyrian noble whose species had never known predation. On their world, evolution had favored size and passive intimidation. Standing nearly 8 feet tall with crystalline skin that refracted light in intimidating patterns, Krothnos had bullied his way through the academy for 2 cycles without consequence. He didn't like that Jessica ignored him. "Deathworlder," he hissed, just loud enough for nearby students to hear. "Your kind shouldn't be allowed here. You contaminate civilized space." Jessica didn't respond, her pen continuing to move across her notes. She'd heard worse. The admission committee had debated for months whether to accept human applicants, citing excessive violent tendencies and incompatible stress responses. Krothnos leaned forward, his crystalline fingers drumming on his desk. "I'm talking to you, primitive." The Galactic Council had extensive documentation on human capabilities. Jessica had read the files during orientation, amused by the clinical horror with which other species described her homeworld. Gravity 1.2 times standard. Atmospheric oxygen content fatal to 40% of known species. Predator-to-prey ratio unprecedented. Average temperature fluctuations incompatible with life. And yet, humans jogged for fun. Professor Zixthor activated a hologram showing skeletal structures. Note the Valkyrian bone density, optimized for their low-gravity homeworld. In contrast, Krothnos flicked Jessica's ear. It wasn't a hard strike. On his world, it would have been a mild gesture, barely worth noticing. But Valkyrian fingers, though brittle, had sharp edges designed for display combat. A thin line of blood appeared on Jessica's ear. The lecture hall seemed to freeze. Professor Zixthor's words died mid-sentence. Every student understood what had just happened. Physical contact with a Deathworlder. Unplanned. Uninvited. Potentially fatal. Jessica's hand moved to her ear, came away red. She looked at the blood on her fingers with an expression the other species couldn't quite read. Humans had so many micro-expressions, their faces a constant storm of emotional data that other species found overwhelming. "You should apologize," she said quietly. Krothnos laughed, a sound like wind chimes. "Your kind should." He didn't finish the sentence. Jessica's response wasn't the berserker rage that galactic species expected from Deathworlders. It was something worse, calculated, efficient, and utterly terrifying in its precision. She stood and turned in one fluid motion. Her right hand caught Krothnos's extended arm, using his own leverage against him. On Earth, it was called judo, a martial art thousands of years old. In the Academy's 0.8 standard gravity, it was devastatingly effective. Krothnos, designed for low-gravity displays of dominance, had no counter-programming for a genuine physical threat. His crystalline body, impressive in appearance, had all the structural integrity of glass against Earth-standard muscle density. The throw took 3 seconds. The impact took 1. The sound of Krothnos's facial structure shattering against the desk took less than that. 5 seconds total. Jessica was back in her seat by second 7, wiping the blood from her ear with a tissue from her bag. The silence in the lecture hall was absolute. Professor Zixthor's species had 3 hearts, and all of them were racing. "Security to lecture hall 7, he whispered into his comm, though his eyes never left Jessica. She looked up calmly. "Self-defense, Professor. Station Regulations Article 4, Section 12, Students have the right to respond proportionally to physical assault. He struck first. There are 47 witnesses. Krothnos groaned from the floor, his crystalline face fractured in a dozen places, light refracting at wrong angles through the cracks. He'd need reconstructive surgery. Expensive reconstructive surgery. The Threnian student next to Jessica had turned a shade of blue that indicated extreme stress. You could have killed him. Jessica's expression softened slightly. No. I was careful. If I wanted to kill him, he'd be dead. She said it matter-of-factly, the way someone might comment on the weather. Humans learn restraint early. We have to. Security arrived, 2 Matherian guards in hardened exosuits designed for handling dangerous specimens. They approached Jessica like she was an armed explosive. Miss Martinez, the senior guard said carefully. Please come with us. Of course. Jessica stood slowly, hands visible, movements deliberate. She'd studied the protocols. Deathworlders learned early how not to startle other species. As she passed Krothnos, still being attended to by medical drones, she paused. Article 4, Section 12 also states that the aggressor forfeits protection against counter-assault. You'll be expelled by end of cycle. I'll be back in class tomorrow. She was right, of course. The review board took 20 minutes to watch the security footage and render their decision. Krothnos was placed on the next shuttle home, his noble family facing embarrassment and a lawsuit from the academy for their son's conduct. Jessica returned to her dorm to find a message from the dean, proportional response acknowledged. Exemplary restraint noted. Welcome to Advanced Combat Theory, your enrollment has been approved. She smiled and pulled up her homework. Tomorrow's topic, human martial arts and their applications in zero-gravity environments. The galaxy was learning, slowly, what Earth had known for millennia: it's not the size of the fighter, it's the size of the fight in the fighter. And humans had millions of years of fight bred into their bones.